A tarantula, one of the largest and most heavily defended spiders on Earth, lies motionless in its own burrow, completely unable to move a single leg. It isn't dead. It can still sense everything happening around it, still technically alive in every meaningful sense, and it will remain in exactly this condition for weeks. The animal responsible is roughly a tenth of its size and delivers what's widely regarded as one of the most painful stings of any insect on the planet, though pain isn't actually the point of the sting at all. This is the tarantula hawk wasp, and unlike some other parasitic wasps that manipulate behavior while leaving their host fully mobile, this one causes genuine, complete, full-body paralysis, a real and total shutdown of the tarantula's ability to move, not a psychological trick or a targeted behavioral edit. The process begins with a hunt that looks almost suicidal given the size difference involved. A female tarantula hawk actively seeks out tarantulas, animals easily large enough and strong enough to kill her outright with their own fangs if the encounter goes wrong. She provokes the spider into a defensive posture, then, in a movement fast enough that the tarantula rarely manages an effective counterattack, delivers a single sting directly into the spider's underside, injecting a venom cocktail specifically evolved to target the nervous system controlling voluntary movement. Within seconds, the tarantula's legs stop responding to any signal at all. It isn't unconscious. Researchers studying this venom's effects believe the spider likely remains aware, at least on some level, but it has no ability to fight, flee, or resist anything that happens next. Here's where the strategy becomes genuinely calculated rather than simply violent, because keeping the tarantula paralyzed rather than dead is the entire point. The wasp drags the fully paralyzed spider, sometimes many times her own body weight, into a burrow, either one she digs herself or one she takes directly from the tarantula. She lays a single egg on the spider's abdomen, then seals the burrow entrance and the leaves. When the egg hatches, the larva begins feeding. And this is where the true purpose of paralysis over death reveals itself. A larva feeding on a dead spider would be feeding on tissue that starts decomposing almost immediately. A larva feeding on a paralyzed but still living spider gets fresh tissue for the entire duration of its development, and sometimes stretching across several weeks because the spider's body remains biologically alive and its organs continue functioning right up until the larva has consumed enough to finish growing. The larva feeds with the same careful sequencing documented in several other parasitic wasp species, avoiding the tarantula's vital organs for as long as biologically possible, prioritizing non-essential tissue first specifically to extend the spider's survival for the maximum useful window. Only in the final stage of development does the larva consume what's left of the organs it spent weeks deliberately avoiding, at which point the tarantula finally dies, almost simultaneously with the larva completing its growth and beginning to form a cocoon. The sting itself deserves its own mention because entomologists who study insect venom have ranked it among the most intensely painful stings documented in any insect, based on standardized pain rating research comparing stings across dozens of species. Despite that reputation, the sting isn't actually dangerous to humans in a lasting medical sense. The pain is genuinely severe but brief, typically subsiding within several minutes, existing purely as an extraordinarily effective deterrent, rather than as a mechanism built to cause any real lasting harm to something the wasp isn't actually trying to hunt. What separates this from the kind of behavioral manipulation we've covered in other parasitic wasp species is the directness of it. There's no subtlety here, no editing a single narrow urge while leaving everything else intact. This is complete physical shutdown, engineered specifically to preserve a living food source for as long as biologically possible on one of the most dangerous and heavily armed prey animals any wasp on Earth chooses to hunt. So the next time you hear about a parasite manipulating its host, remember, there are two very different strategies happening in nature. Some parasites edit the mind and leave the body free. Others, like this one, shut the entire body down completely and let biology do the rest, one carefully avoided organ at a time. Which approach do you find more unsettling? A predator that lets its prey keep moving but takes away its will to resist, or one that removes the ability to move entirely and just waits? Tell me in the comments and subscribe to NatureCrest for more deep dives into the animal kingdom's most extraordinary and most disturbing survival strategies.